It's Kitty Lundan with Kitty Lundan Productions.
This is Diversified Game.
A podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective with Kellen.
He may agree, he may oppose, and it's more than just race, it's about, ideas.
So, let the game begin.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today my guest, South Florida royalty in the media. I saw her show and I said, wait, she's interviewing everybody, that is either in South Florida or that is coming to South Florida. I said, I want to talk to Miss Queen Kitty Lundan of Kitty Lundan Productions. And welcome to the show.
Oh, wow. Wow. I love your introduction. I am doing even better now since I am on your platform. Thank you for having me this morning.
Well, thank you. And thank you for doing what you do, because it's not easy to just keep pushing and doing it independently, and just, highlighting the stories that you find people need to know. Can you tell the people how and why did you get started doing, media?
Well, first of all, let me just give you a little background. I have an associate in science degree in film and TV, and I've always loved being creative. I've always loved production. I actually never saw myself having a talk show or interviewing people. How that came about was I started as a makeup artist, and I would meet some very influential women, and I would just be amazed by their lifestyles. You walk into these homes and you see the Bentley parked outside, and you see these big homes, and you're like, wait a minute, am I on Cribs or Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, right? And then I'm thinking, before I had relationships with them, in my mind, while I'm, doing their smoky eyes, I'm thinking, what do you do for a living? Like, are you hiring? How can I have this lavish lifestyle as well? So it kind of had my wheels spinning. And again, not aging myself too much, but for most people, if you Google, if you're not in the age bracket where MTV Cribs or Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, those are shows that let you walk into people's homes and see their beautiful lifestyles. And I'm one of those type of people, Kellen, that I always want to know the story. Like, okay, I get you have these nice cars, I get this, but who are you? How did you start? Did you ever fail? Did you ever feel like giving up? What was your comeback story? And that's how the wheel started spinning. So I wanted to develop a show that was almost like Cribs, where I would go into the homes and businesses of people living great lives, hence the People of Power show. And I would interview them. I would love to, want to see their toys, but I also want to hear their story. And that's how it all began. So I had a guy who was going to actually start videotaping me. Some things happened, and unfortunately that never took place. And then ironically, I got an invite to be a radio personality on a radio show called 107.1. And I was like the traffic jam person. So after 2 months there, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could bring my show to radio. Let's start talking to some community people, some people who are in power, influential people. We did that for about a couple months. Unfortunately, that radio station had some change in management, and I had a guest that was upcoming, and I called her and I said, hey, unfortunately, I'm not on the radio anymore, but if you still want to do the show, I could come to your house. And she said, yes, come on. And it kind of went from there. And are you still there? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I hear you. Okay. Great.
I just want to make sure. So she was like, yeah, come on. And she had one of those homes where you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh. And she was self-made, entrepreneur, and it just went from there. So after that, I kind of just started booking people, and I would call them and I would say, hey, I want to do a show about you, blah, blah, blah. And, for the most part, most people are very happy to be highlighted, right? We all want to have that that highlight one day in our lives. And it just went from there. So, you fast forward over 400 interviews now. But the thing that I love about people is that we all have a story. And I feel that media sometimes doesn't do the best at telling, when I say real stories, I mean about real come-ups. And I just graduated with my mass communications and journalism degree. So I took this thing pretty seriously.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. To basically, be the voice in the face that media kind of doesn't do anymore. I mean, we look at the news, right? And you look at the news and you're going to see the first 5 minutes, right, is chaos. It's death. it's drama, right? And it's like, okay. And then maybe the last 30 seconds of the news clip, you're going to hear a highlight of somebody great, right? So, but it's not really about that in life. And this is why I wanted to do the show. I'm just like you. You do a great job with highlighting people, but we are what is really needed right now. Because again, I've been covered on news. I've been highlighted nationally on MSNBC and places like that. But it's like, okay, we need news that are going to talk about everyday people, that are going to highlight everyday people and know what's going on actually in our communities.
And, the big question folks will have, and I'm thinking of the 14-year-old right now, to say, you know what, I want to do it that way because I don't want to do it the old school way. And I don't want to have to rely on anybody else, but my own efforts and my own talents. Mm-hmm. How do you monetize it? And it's a question people always ask me. So I'm so happy to ask you so you can tell them, how you've been able to pursue when you need new equipment. And, just the monetization is a big part. So can you share the game on how that works for you?
Well, basically, I just tell anyone, first of all, what is your intent? You cannot go into most professions thinking about the money. Money does have to come. We have to eat. We have to survive. But the real lesson is going into it for the right reasons. Just like when people say, I want to be a teacher. You're not going into a teaching field for money. You're going into the teaching field because you want to provide education for someone. And that's just like what we do. It's like I would tell the 14-year-old who's inspiring, or the 25-year-old or the 44-year-old, first of all, have intent, have good intentions. What are you trying to do for people? What are you trying to do for your community? And I was told this a couple of years ago. Someone's like, well, you're going to make money. And someone else told me this, the money will come. If you stay true to you, the money will come. Now, if you're looking to advertise, that's great, because companies, unfortunately, small to mid-sized businesses, a lot of them can't afford the true advertising dollars. It costs a lot of money to do radio, costs a lot of money to do TV ads. So they look for people who are kind of in the middle. You have to have a following. So the first thing is you need to build your brand. Nobody's going to pay you if they don't know you. No one's going to pay you if you don't have a track record. And when I say 400 interviews, that's something that I put on my resumes. That's something that I do, because if I'm paying you as a company, I want to know that you're going to be here tomorrow. I don't want to pay you for a month and you are skipping on interviews, or you're on social media. You have to have a consistency and a persistence in the game of marketing and media. So that's the first keynote. Is keys to being, prophesizing in this business, is you have to make sure that you are consistent. Get a following, get people who have a name. So because when they have a name and they're on your show, guess what? Now you have more followers. And that was what I would tell people knowing the business. Research what people get for marketing. Every company pays you differently. Right now, like I'm in a media affiliate for Children's Service Council of Palm Beach County. Now they're a government agency. So when you deal with government entities, you may not get paid as much as you do, as someone private. But I've had companies who say, guess what? I want to sponsor your show tonight. They know I'm having someone big on the show. They're like, I want to sponsor your show. So you need to start doing sponsorship packages to say, okay, and I'm just throwing out money, a dollar sign here. Okay, so for tonight's show, because I'm going to have someone big, I'm going to charge $150. Now with that $150, what is your client getting? First of all, you have to kind of say, well, I get this many views. and you show them your statistics on how many views you get, and views vary.